Alright folks, welcome back to the channel. I got a brand new video for y'all today, and it's been a while since I made a video again. I mean, it's been about a week or so since I've last covered the polls. And to be quite honest with you, full disclosure, I have not looked at the polls all week. I've just been so busy. And so I'm looking at them today, and I'm just seeing the numbers for the first time in a week. So bear with me. I have not looked at them for the last week, so these numbers are probably going to shock me to some extent, or maybe they won't. So we'll just take a look at them really quickly, but we have multiple sources to corroborate these numbers. We'll start off with the betting markets because in a lot of the conservatives in my comments, they tend to love the betting markets for whatever reason. And so we're going to look at the betting markets and see what they have to say. And if we take a look at Polymarket, which is probably the most credible source for betting, I guess, in that respect on politics and any sort of political matters, they have Mark Carney at a 75% chance of becoming the next Prime Minister of Canada following the election. Now, I'm going to address a few other things. Notably, I'm going to address the idea that the polls do not reflect what's going to happen on election day. That's an argument being brought up by conservatives. I'll address that. But I want to start off with this. So this is weird. It feels kind of odd that I'm doing this. But Polymarket has actually done a seat breakdown, which is very interesting. And it seems like they've done a box plot, which is interesting to say the least, to sort of model this and show it. And I feel like they actually do a pretty good job of actually showing and visualizing it, to be honest with you. In fairness to them, we have some other sources we'll show you through 38 Canada and whatnot, but this is actually pretty decent in terms of showing what could happen. So if you take a look at what's going to happen, here is what we're at, or here's where we're at right now. The Liberals are projected to win 178 seats, which would be 6 above a majority, which, again, I do have to note that Polymarket and the betting markets in general are very bullish on conservatives in general. They were bullish on Trump. They were bullish on other conservatives during the midterms. They were also bullish on Pierre Poilievre for a very long time, for 2 years, and they had, it took them a while to try to, or not to try to eventually switch over to the Liberals in terms of Carney having the highest chance to become the next Prime Minister. It took them a while. The Conservatives are expected to win 135, which would be an improvement from what they had in 2021 and 2019. But again, that's nowhere near a minority or a majority for that matter. They would still end up losing to a Liberal majority, which would be disastrous for them. The Bloc are at 19, the NDP are at 10, and then the Green are at 1. I don't think we need to talk about these three too much. They've clearly seen a loss of support, maybe not so much the Green, but the NDP has basically collapsed. And the Bloc was projected to win 45 seats at one point. That is no longer the case. They're only expected to win about 19. And so we could take a look at this as well. This is a provincial breakdown. I don't think we need to really look at this too much. I think we sort of get the main idea of it. I will be talking about something else in a bit that I think, I hate to address it, but I think I have to just because it's necessary. And that's the question of Alberta and Saskatchewan and the direction that they go forward from this point on following this election. We'll have to see. I'm going to address that in a bit. But first, I want to show you guys 338 Canada. 338 Canada has 196 seats for the Liberals, 120 for the Conservatives, 17 for the Bloc. So that's a decrease of 2 compared to the Polymarket ones, and then 8 for the NDP. They would not make official party status, same as the one for Polymarket. I will show you guys some ads in a bit, and I will be grading those ads. There's 2 conservative ads, and then there's 1 liberal ad. And I think they're worth watching just because they do effectively summarize what's going on. I will also be talking about what the hell is going on with the conservative campaign, because there's so much infighting going on, and it's a disaster. It's a mess, and we'll talk about that in a bit. Because these numbers, if you take a look, they were not always like this, guys. They were not always like this. I mean, if you take a look right here, the odds of winning the most seats, the Conservatives were 66% chance of winning the most seats only a month ago, right? I mean, only a month ago they were projected to win in some respects. And you take a look at this switch, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It is unbelievable. I want to go back here really quickly for the C projection. Yeah, take a look at this, guys. I hate to go back to this, but I have to just because it does tell the full story. At one point, we were looking at the Conservatives winning almost 240 seats and the Liberals at 41, which would have still put them at third-party status. Today, we see the Liberals at 196. Yeah, fine. Nowhere near the 240 that the Conservatives were expected to win. But guess what? Nobody cares about expectations. We care about the results. And so I'm looking at this as well. And to that point, by the way, I know some people are going to say, oh, so you're basically admitting that polls are not a good metric. And that's not true. What I'm basically saying is, hey, they were projected to win 240 seats. The election didn't happen, right? They're not projected to win 200 seats. The Liberals, the election is going to happen. And so what does that mean? If this election happened, in February, or even in January, or even in November, it would have been 200 seats plus for the conservatives. I'm not saying it wouldn't have been, because it would have been. But now, just because we're in election period, I'm pretty confident in saying that if the Liberals, or if an election were to be held today, the Liberals would win probably 200 seats, potentially. I don't think they would win 200, to be honest with you, even though they did have them at around 200 at some point. They'd probably win 196 seats, or they would win 178 seats. Pollywave says it would be 191 seats. So, again, we're giving all these numbers, but you get the main idea, which is essentially that if the election were to be held today, these results would actually end up panning out, just because if you take a look, if we had an election at this time, these results probably would have panned out as well. But that's beside the point. I want to show this really quickly. So this is really funny, honestly. I think it's sort of funny, but it's also sort of sad that some people are still denying this. And I'll get to that point in a bit, because I think it's worth noting that there are some people who are completely out of their minds right now. If you take a look, since the start of this campaign period, over 80 polls have been conducted. Okay, 80 polls. It's worth noting that they've been conducted multiple times, or multiple polls have been conducted by the same pollster or by the same firm. But still, these are different polls every single time. And the last one that was published was yesterday. There was actually 3 published yesterday. If we take a look at the 79 polls, okay, there's been only one. Yeah, this is the only one where the conservatives have led, and that is by Innovative Research. As for other polls that are slightly, have some slight indications of conservative support or widespread conservative support, we have an Abacus one, or Abacus, I should say, one on March 27th. That was where the conservatives were tied with the Liberals. That's not a lead for the conservatives. We also had one where, the conservatives were tied with the Liberals again. Again, Abacus had that one. But since about, April 3rd, so that's been about a week and a half or so, the conservatives have basically been losing in every single poll. MQO Research, for example, 10 points down for the conservatives. I'll show you another one that's pretty bad. Ecos, which a lot of people were dissing before, and like I said before on the channel, I'm looking at all polls. Okay, you can have a poll that says conservatives up plus 20 right now, and I would still look at it. Doesn't mean that's completely right, but I'd still look at it and I'd still consider it. Ecos has them plus 13. Nanos has them plus 5.8. Nanos again, 6.2. Liaison has them up plus 7 points. Liaison, Main Street. Like, these are credible sources, guys. These are credible sources. Let's not make it seem like they're not credible just because your candidate's not winning. And so I'll get to that point in a bit. But first I want to show you guys an ad. So this is from the Liberals. It's a 30-second ad. I haven't watched it, so we'll have to see how it is exactly. But their sentence, the only sentence that they had on this tweet was right from Trump's playbook, period. And we'll have to watch this. I don't know what they're referring to, but let's watch it.
How do you address the concerns of being too closely aligned to a foreign government that is threatening Canada and is destroying its own country right now?
Well, your question is false.
Everything is broken.
Everything is broken.
The left-wing censorship regime.
Their woke censorship ideology.
Defeating the radical left.
Radical, leftist, authoritarian. It's not the Americans' fault. It's our fault. We're stupid.
Interesting. So we're stupid, but Trump is really smart, right? It's not their fault at all. Yeah, I have to be honest with you guys. If any voters saw this, I think if any Canadian saw this, they'd be like, this guy's not too prepared to deal with Trump. I mean, there's other things as well we could point to, but I would say honestly, just in terms of effectiveness and in terms of delivery, keeping in mind that it's a 30-second ad only, I think this is up there. I think this is one of the best ads they've actually released. And I'm not just saying that because, I'm a liberal or something like that. I'm actually saying it from an outside perspective. What they did was effectively compare him to an enemy that is, that exceeds our borders, an enemy that is outside of our country, aka Donald Trump, I guess, is the main person I'm talking to, who is the main enemy in this election for both parties. Not so much the conservatives, but sort of the conservatives, but definitely the liberals. Their enemy is Donald Trump. And so they compare him to Donald Trump. The things that he said are very similar to Donald Trump. There's no denying it, guys. Okay, if you're conservative or liberal, we can all acknowledge that he is very much like Trump. He says things that are very similar to Trump, and they've shown clips of it. The woke censorship ideology, that's exactly what Trump has said. The broken stuff, that's exactly what Trump says. It's not the Americans' fault, we're stupid. That's not a really smart thing to say right a few months before you're about to go into the election period. So again, and by the way, that was an interview with Jordan Peterson, who is sort of a far-right provocateur. So, and I know some people are going to have a field day with that one. They're going to be like, what are you talking about? He's far-right and this and that. Okay, Jordan Peterson is, by all definitions, far-right. I think that's a pretty fair assumption to make. That's like saying Ben Shapiro is centrist. He's not. But anyways, I have this other thing that I want to show you guys. And I don't know if these are ads or what. I don't really know what their objective is with this. I think these are very goofy, to be quite honest with you. They're extremely ineffective. They're completely unnecessary. And they're not doing a good job. They're not doing a good job. I mean, you take a look at this, 42.6 thousand views versus 106,000 views. I mean, it's not even close, right? Like, there was a time where the conservatives, yeah, mind you, it was posted by Michael Barrett, but there was a time where I would look at these liberal things and they would have only like 10K views during the Justin Trudeau era. Now you take a look at, they're at 100,000. You take a look at this guy, he has only 42,000. Not that I really care about the views, because we'll talk about that sort of idea in a second. But I just don't understand, why are you making these goofy videos with Michael Barrett, who is, by no means is a dumb person at all. That's not what I'm saying. But who is by no means a person who is within Pierre Poilievre's inner circle. Because guess what? Pierre Poilievre does not have an inner circle. His only inner circle is pretty much at this point, based on everything we've seen throughout the campaign, is his wife and Jenny Byrne. That's all it is. He doesn't bring his people with him to his campaign rallies. He doesn't, I mean, he's brought him maybe to like one or two. He doesn't say what position they would take on if they were to become ministers or if he were to form government. He doesn't say what their expertise is. He does not mention any of that. So these people are basically just supporting characters for Pierre Poilievre, but have no actual role, have no actual position within the campaign. So we'll talk about this really quickly. And this is really goofy, honestly. This is ridiculous, man. Michael Barrett, I know you're better than this. You don't have to do this. This is what Pierre Poilievre wants you to do, I'm sure. But you don't, this is unnecessary. Soft on crime Carney, all in caps. Mark Carney's policies are more of the same after a decade of liberal failure. He won't repeal C5 or C75, the laws that keep criminals on our streets. Only a new conservative government will bring a 3 strikes law that keeps criminals behind bars and Canada safe for change. I'm reading this out that way because that is exactly how he wrote it. He wrote in all caps, so I'm trying to emphasize that. Let's watch this.
You won't believe what Mark Carney tried to do this morning. Carney is actually trying to run from his record of 10 years of rising crime and chaos in our streets.
Oh, his record, okay.
The exact same liberal team that voted to lower sentences for fentanyl kingpins, that allows car thieves to serve their sentences at home, and requires bail to be given to any criminal at the earliest opportunity regardless of their criminal record. Here are the facts. Under the Liberals, violent crime is up 50%. Auto theft is up 46%. Violent gun crime is up 116%. And extortion is up an eye-watering 357%. Mark Carney's hug-a-thug policies are not going to stop the crime. He's counting on Canadians not remembering anything from the last 10 years. This has been a lost Liberal decade that's unleashed crime and chaos across our country. But Canadians know better. Canadians remember how liberal laws made our once safe communities more dangerous than ever before. We can't afford a 4th Liberal term under a...
Okay, it's just me, but the audio seems quite, like, it doesn't seem synced with what he's saying. So, I don't know, that I just thought that was kind of weird. Also, I don't need to watch the rest of this. There's no point. This is horrible. There's no music in the background. There's no numbers being popped up. There's no images. It's just awful. Like, I don't know what the point of this was, first of all. Second of all, some of the things that he said are just ridiculous. You know, the fact that Carney was in the government for the last 10 years or that he owns that record is just preposterous. In 2020, he became an informal advisor during the COVID-19 pandemic. And in 2024, he became the chair of an economic growth task force. Economic growth task force, not economic task force, not, full finance portfolio by any means. It was an economic growth task force. This is not a position where he was required to work. Like, he was not working with the top government people. He was just advising. And so, 10 years is ridiculous. He has not been around for 10 years. You could say maybe that he's been around for, or at least as far back as 5 years, but even then he wasn't involved in on a consistent basis. So again, I don't know what he's trying to say with this. Michael Barrett, conservatives, this is just not even, I don't even know what this is. I would give it like a 3 out of 10. This is ridiculous. And then they have another one. So I don't know what's going on. I don't know why they're doing this. Is this like a new tactic or something? Is this a new switch up? I mean, we're 16 days away from the elections. That's about 2 weeks and 2 days. What are they doing? What is this stuff that they're doing with Andrew Scheer and Michael Barrett? I'm sure they had one with Lanceman. I'm sure they had one with Jamil Javani. I don't know what they're doing with this, but we'll read what he said. The Liberals gave us a lost decade. By the way, Andrew Scheer did end up losing the election in 2019, and he is now basically trying to claw his way back into politics. You know, he went from the top as the leader of the opposition. Now he's some sort of, I guess, spokesperson or something for Pierre Poilievre. It would be the best way to put it. He basically peaked too early, is what I'm trying to say. His political career is, it does not seem like there's any prospect of him ever becoming the prime minister. So again, I don't know what the point of this is. It's like when Chrystia Freeland basically she was at the top as deputy prime minister, finance minister, she was foreign affairs, whatever. And then she leaves, she resigns. She comes back as transport minister. Like, what was the point of that? There was no need to do that. You could have done something else. I don't know why he's sticking around. But anyways, the crime wave is no accident. Liberal policies that let dangerous and repeat offenders out on bail in softer sentences cause the chaos in our streets. So again, they're talking about crime, I guess, in extremely safe neighborhoods, it would appear, because there are like no people around and they have cameras around them and they probably have security as well. So that's interesting. The crime wave is no accident. Liberal policies, yeah, I already read that. Violent offenders belong behind bars, period. Nobody's arguing against that, Andrew. Mark Carney has been wrong about the oh my God. They're still talking about the carbon tax. Oh my goodness. How is inflation getting in this too? You're talking about crime, but then you bring up the carbon tax and inflation. What are you doing? What are you doing, Andrew? Come on. Mark Carney's been wrong about the carbon tax, inflation, and he's wrong about crime. I don't know what he said about crime that he was wrong about, so let's see if he has an answer to that. Let's see, Andrew.
About every important issue he's ever spoken.
Oh, there's music.
He was wrong on inflation.
Images.
Carbon tax,
Videos.
And today he added that he's wrong on crime. When he was asked about the common sense policy announced by Pierre Poilievre, where individuals who are convicted 3 times of serious crimes like sexual assault, extortion, or assault with a weapon, Mark Carney said it shouldn't be automatic. I don't jump to a baseball rule. The full force of the law should be applied. As usual, Mark Carney is trying to avoid stating his reckless and radical viewpoints. The reality is that the law as it stands now, as enacted by the Liberals, does not sufficiently protect law-abiding Canadians. The force of the law was not applied when Mohamed Majidpour was released again after his 30th conviction, including for violent crimes like assault with a weapon. Nor was it applied when Darko Zhugova, who Peel police describe as a repeat violent offender, committed a home invasion robbery with a firearm while out on bail. And an OPP constable was not protected when he was allegedly killed by repeat violent criminal Randall McKenzie, who was out on bail for attacking his ex-girlfriend and carrying a gun. Here's the reality. As a result of the lost Liberal decade, violent crime has skyrocketed by 50%. Gun crime is up 116%. Gang homicides up 78%. Extortion and auto theft up 357% and 46% respectively. This crime wave was no accident. It didn't just happen. The Liberals introduced radical catch-and-release policies like Bill C-5, which allows some of the worst offenders to serve their sentences at home, and Bill C-75, which lets rampant criminals go free within hours of their arrest. Mark Carney will keep all the Liberal soft-on-crime laws.
I think I'll watch the rest.
His first move was to appoint David Lametti, the same Justice Minister who was responsible for Trudeau's soft-on-crime laws, as his senior advisor. And he chose Marco Mendicino, Justin Trudeau's disastrous failed public safety minister, as his chief of staff. And his hand-picked candidate in Victoria, Will Graves, wants to defund and disarm the police. We can't afford a 4th Liberal term under a weak leader like Mark Carney, who won't take the bold action necessary to stop the crime and chaos in our streets. Only a new Conservative government will stop the crime, lock up dangerous criminals, and give repeat violent offenders jail, not bail. You have the right to send your children to the park without worrying about something happened to them. The rights of law-abiding citizens should come ahead of violent offenders.
Okay. Okay. Much better. Much better. Honestly, much better. He made some valid points in there. He made some valid arguments. You know, he is right about the Marco Mendicino thing. David Lametti, I can't comment too much on that. I'm not really sure what exactly his point was in that respect. But Marco Mendicino, that is a very fair point. He did resign pretty badly. Like, it was not a good resignation as the Minister of Public Safety. He clearly messed up on many issues, and that's been agreed on by many people. You know, obviously that music and whatnot, I thought it was a bit weird that they had like techno electro music playing when they were talking about a cop getting killed. I thought that was kind of weird. I also think there were some parts I was like, okay, that's interesting. But nonetheless, I thought this was much better. I would say this is still not the greatest ad I've ever seen. I'd give it like a 5. I mean, or 6. I'll give it a 6. I'll give it a 6 because this was awful. I mean, thinking back on it, I'd give this like a 2 now that I think of it. Definitely did do a better job of not capitalizing things for no reason like Trump does. And he did. The weird thing I did find was that, you know, he mentions carbon tax and inflation, but he didn't mention that in the video, so that's a bit weird. Again, Mark Carney did get rid of the carbon tax, the consumer carbon tax, through an order in council. For those that don't know, it's essentially an order that put the carbon tax to 0%. And yeah, I know there's going to be people who are going to say, oh, it's still technically a law. Listen, guys, have you seen the price of gas? Have you seen it? It's like $1.25 here in Ontario. It's not as bad as it was before. It's gone down by like 30 cents. So I don't really know what this was, what the point of this was. But anyways, I think overall, if you add up the scores, I would say, well, it would be 6 plus 3 divided by 2, which is about 4.5 out of 10 for both conservative ads combined. And then this one I gave, I believe, an 8 or 9. I think I gave it a 9. So definitely the Liberals have done better in terms of their advertising. I'd like to show this article really quickly, and then I'll end off and just give my final thoughts about what's going on in this election campaign. So a lot of people, particularly conservatives, are saying, hey, listen, we don't believe in the poll numbers. We don't believe what the media says. We believe that rallies and the numbers that Pierre Poilievre and the conservatives are pulling at their rallies is the best metric that we can use to determine what's going to happen on election day. To which I would respond, that's kind of ridiculous, because when you have a rally, you're they vet the people that are going to get in first of all. You have to be a conservative member, all that kind of stuff. But it's also people who genuinely want to see the person. So obviously you're going to have people who are fans and they're going to come to the rallies. Rallies do not represent the Canadian people. I mean, you could have a rally of 100,000 people, but that could be all the 100,000 people that support whatever X party, liberal or conservative. So my main argument would be that rallies don't necessarily mean anything in terms of poll numbers and what's going to happen on election day. But the CBC has done a good job of reviewing rally numbers that have been claimed by both the Liberals and the Conservatives. And so they're going to break it down, and I will highlight some key numbers that they did give us. So they said, so one of the rallies that the Conservatives had, I think it was the Edmonton one, and we'll get to that in a bit. But let's start off really quickly with the Liberal one. So the Liberals said the rally in Richmond had 2,000 people in the main room. CBC News' count, corroborated by Still, put the number closer to 800. So yeah, I mean, why are you guys making stuff up about your numbers? It's like less than half of what you claim. That's so ridiculous. And you continue on in this article. Let's see. Yeah. Chronologically, the first event examined was the Conservative rally on March 27th in Surrey. So that was about 2.5 weeks ago or so. The party claimed 5,500 attendees. CBC News counted approximately 1,522 in a picture posted by the campaign. Why are we doing this? Like, why are we making stuff up? You're off by 4,000. Why are you making this number up, 5,500? And who told them to make that number up? Who told them to make that number up? That's a very interesting number to pick, 5,500. I mean, I could tell it's not 5,500. I've seen 5,500, or at least somewhere close to that. It is nowhere near 1,500. I would say it looks a bit more than about 1,500, but it definitely is not 5,500. So the next rally exam was a Liberal gathering in Toronto on March 20th. So this is the day after. Liberal officials told reporters there were 1,800 people in the room. CBC News counted 710. Why are we lying about this? Why are we doing this? That's 1,100 off. Why are we doing this, guys? Come on. God, like it's so obvious. You could tell that it's going to be off. I don't know if this image is here. Yeah, this is clearly not 1,800 people. This is clearly not eight. It's like a ballroom. You can't fit 1,800 people in there. So no, that's ridiculous. I totally don't understand why they're doing that. I think it's ridiculous. But we're not done yet. We have some more numbers that we have to show you guys. And this one involves the Conservatives. We'll get to the 15,000 in a second because you guys will find out the real number and you'll be shocked. Next, the Conservative campaign said its rally near Edmonton had more than 15,000 people. Now remember, Alberta is a stronghold for the Conservatives. Near Edmonton would imply that it's not necessarily in Edmonton, which would mean that, hey, like Edmonton is not completely conservative. I think Edmonton, Strathcona is NDP. I think there's some surrounding areas that are Liberals, or I think that would be Calgary, actually. I don't know too much about Alberta, to be honest with you. I just know the main cities, but near Edmonton would imply that it's not necessarily in Edmonton. They said 15,000 people. Okay, let's take a look. Here, the size of the crowd and the space made the panorama shot posted by the campaign more difficult to analyze than others. Okay. CBC News was able to count 1,558 people. This is not 15,000 people, guys. This is nowhere near 15,000 people. I mean, we're underestimating how many people is 15,000. If you guys have ever been to an American football game, trust me, that those people, those games have about 80,000 people or so, maybe 60. Actually 60 probably depending on what stadium you go to, but 80,000 is like the highest you'll be at. Do you know how much 80,000 people is? 15,000 is a portion of that. 15,000 people is this. This is 15,000 people. That's a lot of people. This is 1,500 people. Okay? And you take a look. That said, by examining other footage, the team identified 3 pockets of people that it missed, and poor video quality made it impossible to count them. Even so, those groups do not account for more than 10,000 missing attendees. So they're basically saying, hey, they were off by about 14,000. That's not good. Still says he counted 1,772 people. The campaign tally is some 10 times higher. He notes it's not possible. And then again, we have Melissa Landsman. Just again, like, why are you claiming there's 15,000 people? There's not 15,000 people. Liberal Party, again, they also lied about their numbers. They said 2,000 people were in the main room. Still, put the number of attendees closer to 756. You're off by half, by more than half. Why are we making this up? Who cares? Who cares if you don't have that many people? We're not in the United States. We don't care about rally numbers. That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. Anyways, I think I've been talking for too long. I'll effectively summarize it, or what I've been saying in this video, which is that the Conservatives are just flailing, man. They don't know what they're doing at this point. Their rally numbers are ridiculous, the ones that they claim. Their ads are goofy, I would say, for the most part. The Andrew Scheer one was better than the Michael Barrett one, in fairness. But at the same token, the Liberals have been doing a much better job, and it's been reflecting in the poll numbers. And you take a look at this shift that has taken place. You take a look at the betting markets. They're now favoring the Liberals in nearly every single way. You take a look at these polls. You take a look at the opinion polling. It's showing a clear sign, which is that Mark Carney and the Liberals are most likely going to win the next election. And Mark Carney is going to be the Prime Minister of Canada for the next 4 years, until 2029 at least. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. For those that want to say fake polls, go ahead. It's all fair game, but you know, you guys are going to be in for a rude awakening on April 28th, because I'll tell you what, these fake polls are not going to be so fake on the actual day. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. And again, I will see y'all in the next one.